It's Thursday here on The Story, and tonight, cuts to public safety in Washington County. I sat down today with the district attorney and the sheriff. How a vote in November could give these offices a lift and what it could cost you. Plus, the war of words continues between the governor and the Multnomah County chair over preschool for all, with the county chair today telling the state to back off. But first, critics call it the biggest tax increase in state history. That big transportation bill teeters on the balance tonight, with rumors that lawmakers want to end the session before the Sunday deadline. It's our big story tonight. A public hearing and work session on the massive transportation package finished up in Salem within the last 90 minutes. House Bill 2025-28 passed out of the committee on an 8-4 vote. All Democrats voted yes, and one Republican representative, Kevin Mannix of Salem, also voted yes. Here's a little bit of what lawmakers had to say ahead of that vote tonight in committee.
The time for waiting is over, and I mean, it's like really, really over. Let's pass this bill.
I do recognize from some of the talkers so far that maybe the new talking points are that this is a compromise amendment. While many may have wanted to tax Oregonians more, do not believe that the largest tax hike in Oregon's history is a compromise. It is categorically not a compromise.
With this amendment, we keep the folks employed at ODOT and at most of the cities and counties who do this work for a few years, but due to inflation, it will be only a few years, 2 to 4 years, depending on the agency.
And when I look at this -28 amendment, I have to remind myself, wait a minute, we do have accountability built into this legislation. We are changing the way that we are going to organize and handle the Department of Transportation. And yes, God bless the current director, but we're changing the system to say the governor is ultimately responsible by appointing the director. We've put in a road usage charge system. Thank God we're finally going to address the need to have our electric cars pay their share. And that's built into this bill, and it needs to be talked about. The reason I've gotten excited is because I know it would be easy enough to sit here and say no. But I've decided that I need to say yes so that we can move forward. Thank you.
Okay, so the bill now heads to the House, which will meet tomorrow morning at 9:30. No doubt, this bill is the biggest piece of work left for lawmakers who apparently really value their weekends. Sources tell us that lawmakers are wanting to end the session tomorrow night instead of dragging things out to Sunday, which is when the session must end, according to the state constitution. The bill's path to passage is narrow at best. Because it includes tax hikes, it requires a supermajority vote in both chambers. 36 votes in the House, 18 in the Senate. Democrats have exactly that number in both chambers. And with Republican Rep. Mannix voting yes in committee tonight, it appears passage in the House will happen. But in the Senate, that's where things get sticky. Democrat Mark Meek said last week, when the previous version of the bill was in committee, that he would vote against it, and got removed from the committee for saying that. Today, he posted this to his social media account. Take a look. It says that tolling is back, buried halfway through the bill, and that he will indeed vote no because of that. But according to lawmakers at the beginning of tonight's work session, referencing rumors about tolling, no doubt referring to Senator Meek's post, the language in the bill about tolling does not mean it's coming back. And the governor confirmed that.
The letter that we got from the governor today. This was to our presiding officers, and it says, "Dear Senators and Representatives, on March 11th, 2024, I directed the Oregon Transportation Commission to end all the work on regional mobility pricing project and delay any additional expenditures for implementation of tolling on I-205. The work on I-205 tolling has since been paused indefinitely. I will not direct the commission to toll I-205 and will not support a standalone tolling on I-205. Section 78 of the 28 amendment to House Bill 2025A includes conforming language related to the House Bill 2017. This language is necessary to remove the references to tax increases and reporting requirements for the past legislature that now is obsolete. It does not impact or change my direction to the Oregon Transportation Commission related to tolling on I-205. Sincerely, Governor Kotek.
So, will that revelation change Senator Meek's vote if the bill makes it to the Senate floor tomorrow? We'll have to see. But if he remains a no vote, Democrats will need a Republican to flip, which is not impossible. It looks like it will happen in the House with Rep. Mannix, but it's a bit of a tougher hill to climb in the Senate, simply because there are fewer Republicans there, just 12. But let's dive into some of the highlights, or at least biggest impacts to everyday Oregonians included in the current bill. It's set to cost just shy of $12 billion over 10 years. The gas tax would go up by 12 cents starting January 1st, totaling 52 cents a gallon. It would not be tied to inflation. The so-called transfer tax, a sales tax on cars, is not in this bill. But the similar privilege tax, which already exists, would be raised substantially. It's currently a 0.5% fee on the purchase price of new cars sold in Oregon. In this bill, that's raised to 2.25% and will also include the sale of used cars, although the first $10,000 of the cost of a used car would be exempt from that tax. Hikes at the DMV are in the bill. Registration fees would go up to $75. It's just $43 now. The statewide transit payroll tax will triple between now and 2030, and the new pay-per-mile tax for electric vehicle owners remains as well, with used EVs going first in July of next year. Those drivers getting a choice to pay 5% of the gas tax rate per mile or a flat annual fee of $340. And that's just some of what this bill would do. It's 155 pages long, so we can't get into all of it, obviously. But what happens if the bill fails to pass this session? Well, this week, ODOT told us they would have to cut around 1,000 positions, including laying off over 600 people. Maintenance stations would be closed, 50% fewer winter materials would be purchased, causing a significant reduction in winter services later this year. So we will be watching closely tomorrow at the Capitol. So talk to us, though. What is going through your mind? You know, we love your feedback. Email us at thestory@kgw.com or call and leave a voicemail, 503-226-5090. Also making waves in Salem this week, a couple of gun bills that we've been keeping an eye on. House Bill 3076 would have created a new state licensing program for gun dealers in Oregon. That bill died in the House. Republicans were happy about that. They are not so happy about the passage of Senate Bill 243, which bans the sale of possession of so-called rapid-fire activators, and also lets local governments decide if guns should be allowed inside official meeting locations. Those rapid-fire activators basically turn semi-automatic guns fully automatic, things like bump stocks. The bill also includes a provision on the stalled ballot measure 114, saying that if a court ruling upholds the law that voters narrowly approved in 2022, charges under the measure will not be pursued until lawmakers have a chance to review the measure and all of its trimmings. Oregon House Democrats say that part of Senate Bill 243 is meant to protect responsible gun owners, a group that state Republicans often argue are hurt the most by gun control bills in Salem. Senate Bill 243 heads back to the Senate since it was amended in the House. It previously passed in that chamber on a 17-12 vote. If the new version passes there, it will head to the governor for her signature. Meanwhile, more back and forth today between Governor Tina Kotek and Multnomah County leaders when it comes to Preschool for All. If you missed our show last night, a last-minute amendment to a Senate bill that would end the program by 2027 is not moving forward this session. But that's not stopping the governor from pushing for changes at the county level rather than in Salem. Writing For many families at the community at large, the program is not working. Kids that should be eligible are not getting a seat in the classroom. The economic landscape has changed since the passage of the measure that set the program in motion, and we must plan ahead with a more accurate picture of where we actually stand today. She went on saying changes can and should be made while making sure not a single child currently being served by Preschool for All loses their seat in a classroom. I stand firm in my position that the county must walk and chew gum at the same time, continue to serve the children it's serving, amend the tax, and fix the program before the next tax year to reduce the burden on Multnomah County residents. Well, shortly afterwards, Multnomah County Chair Jessica Vega Peterson fired back with a statement of her own, politely telling the governor to back off. She says, "It's disappointing that the governor is doubling down on undercutting a program that is successfully serving thousands of young children, building a much-needed early education workforce, and allowing thousands of parents to participate in our wider workforce in the largest county in our state as a means to push for drastic cuts for the wealthiest taxpayers." She went on saying, "There absolutely should be a statewide program serving all Oregon children. Until that day, state leaders need to focus on their own efforts to fully fund and support the early childhood education programs they already have." Well, now to an update in our Uncommitted series. The Oregon legislature is close to changing state laws for civil commitment or forced mental health treatment. Lawmakers have tried and failed 3 times in recent years to change the threshold. But a bill to make it easier to force treatment for people with severe mental illness has actually passed the House with bipartisan support. Here's Evan Watson with the update.
Oregon lawmakers are close to passing a bill that would make it easier to force someone into mental health treatment, known as civil commitment. Over the years, the bar to commit someone in Oregon has risen higher and higher, nearly ending civil commitment as an option and effectively criminalizing severe mental illness.
Really, the only reliable pathway right now into acute care, if you're very acute with symptoms, is to be arrested.
Family members of people who turn down care say the current system cycles people in and out of hospitals until they commit a crime.
We're the monsters. We didn't help this person. Collectively, we didn't help this person who needed help.
Senator Kate Lieber says changing the law would eventually ease the burden on the Oregon State Hospital, the state's public psychiatric facility that's currently filled with people who need mental health treatment to stand trial for their criminal cases.
The hope is that this one we're able to actually free up some bed capacity based on this, because you would be treating people and they would go back into the community treated.
But other lawmakers are worried. Oregon's treatment systems are currently overwhelmed with waiting lists of patients needing care.
I like what's in this bill. My concern is it may be premature simply because we do not have the beds. And my concern is where, once identified, where the individuals will find service and shelter. So I'm going to be a no.
House Bill 2005 would allow judges to consider past or future behavior in a civil commitment hearing, whether someone is dangerous to themselves or others because of their mental illness. Senator Lou Frederick says Oregon needs a lot more to overhaul its mental health system, and it lacks the workers to do so, but this bill is a start.
We simply don't have those folks, but we need to try to build this as much as possible, and I think this moves us along in that direction.
Evan Watson, KGW News.
The civil commitment changes were recently combined with other proposals into one mashed up bill, complicating the vote. But it passed the House on Wednesday and now goes to the Senate for approval. Now, those who are civilly committed are sent to the Oregon State Hospital, although most patients there are involved in the criminal justice system, either because they're unfit to stand trial or found guilty, except for insanity. But new reporting from investigative reporter Kyle Aboshi has exposed quite the taxpayer-funded program at the facility. Your tax dollars are paying for sex toys. Okay, Kyle joins me now. Kyle, what got you looking into this?
Makes you blush a little bit, right?
I guess.
Like all great stories, it was a tip. Somebody said, hey, this is going on. You should check this out. And sure enough, I did. I called the state hospital and said, what can you tell me about that? And that led to a public records request. And ultimately, we got the policy, the protocol behind this, but most interesting of all, a 10-page color catalog of various sexual aids, as they describe it, that patients can choose from. Obviously, there's consultation. They're not, they're given some very strict rules about what they can have and how to use it. But we found that last year, 65 sex toys or sexual aids were provided to patients at the state hospital at a cost of about $3,000 to taxpayers.
My gosh, is this common?
It is not. So I reached out to all kinds of folks around the country, national experts, hospital associations, doctors. They all said this is not common practice for a state-run psychiatric hospital. Very unusual.
What does the Oregon State Hospital have to say about this?
Right. So we asked for an interview. They declined, did provide a fairly lengthy, detailed explanation, if you will. Really the focus, they say, is therapeutic in nature, that there's real value, they believe, in providing sexual aids or sex toys to patients, calms stress, eases tensions, things along those lines. They say it's part of human nature. And even though you're institutionalized, you should still have access to these kind of devices. Again, that's according to Oregon State Hospital.
Okay, thank you. Very interesting report. And if you want to catch more, the full report of this, just check out our streaming app, KGW Plus, or our YouTube page. All right, well, turning to Washington County now, where this morning I sat down with District Attorney Kevin Barton and Sheriff Caprice Massey to talk about recent cuts to their departments as part of the county's new budget.
I think cuts like this are really dangerous because it hurts and risks hurting some of the most marginalized people in our community.
Earlier this month, Washington County Commissioners approved a $2 billion budget, forced to fill a $20 million gap in the county's general fund. $7 million was cut from public safety services. The district attorney says his office trimmed down by roughly 10%.
No one was immune from being cut. And the challenging part of that is that this is not the first year of cuts. This is after multiple years of prior cuts. So we're really trying to continue to do more with increasingly fewer and fewer resources, and it's causing a significant strain.
Now, the county's Child Support Enforcement Division, part of the DA's office, was eliminated. It's a program that's been around for the past 50 years. The state will now take it over, but Barton says the majority of the staff will remain the same.
But it was a surprise. I was surprised that the county would choose to make such a significant cut to such important services, and not just in the DA's office, in the sheriff, community corrections, and juvenile.
So unlike in Multnomah County, the Washington County Sheriff's Office took some cuts. Here's what Sheriff Massey told me today.
Well, they're significant. We are the largest consumers of the general fund, and so our cuts were about $4 million, which equated to about 24 positions.
Okay, it's worth noting that those positions were vacant, but Sheriff Massey says they are already understaffed and really needed to fill them, which won't happen now.
It was 10 jail deputies, 10 patrol deputies, 2 criminal records specialists, and 2 jail services technicians. And so that's a significant hit to the resources that we need to run those areas safely.
Today, I talked with a man named Daniel who tells me he's worked for the sheriff's office for 4 years and sees the staffing strains firsthand.
It's disheartening because in Washington County, sheriff's office is highly regarded. I've lived here my whole life for the most part, and there's been a good community presence that the sheriff's office has been respected by the community. And so for the sheriff's office to get to hear that we're getting cutbacks or a loss of whether it's staff or money, that makes it harder for us to do our jobs.
In a statement, Washington County Chair Catherine Harrington said, "This isn't a happy budget. We have a lot of cuts in personnel and in services, but we are an organization of more than 2,500 very dedicated public servants, and we will persevere, and we will do so together." Now, there is one thing that could help these public safety departments on the horizon, a potential increase to the county's public safety levy.
This levy provides public safety functions for every single person in our county. And without it, we cannot continue to maintain our status as the safest urban county in Oregon.
Washington County's public safety levy has been around for decades, and county commissioners this week approved putting a measure on the November ballot that, if passed, would increase the rate by 19 cents. For someone who owns an average assessed home, not market rate, assessed value, which in Washington County is around $350,000, those people would pay $230 a year, which comes out to about $19 a month. That's a $6 monthly increase compared to what those people are paying now. The increased tax is estimated to bring in over $300 million over a 5-year period, providing about 16% of revenue for the county's criminal justice system. Here's what one man said today about potentially paying the increased rate.
I think Beaverton is fairly safe. I actually feel pretty good about where I'm living. So I would like to continue feeling that way. I know it's going to be hard on other people, but I am okay paying it, yeah.
This is a problem. Something needs to happen. We know where this road leads. If you don't fund public safety, we know exactly what happens to that by looking at our neighbors in Multnomah County. And no one in Washington County wants that to happen, especially me.
So, what do you think about the potential public safety levy in Washington County? Would you vote for it in November? Why or why not? Email us at thestory@kgw.com or call and leave a voicemail, 503-226-5090. Well, coming up next on The Story, an update to the Eugene Weekly embezzlement scandal that we've been following for the past year and a half. How it stretches halfway across the country. That's when The Story returns. Well, the former business manager of the Eugene Weekly newspaper, accused of embezzling more than $100,000, is back behind bars in Ohio for a second time. Alicia Young was booked Friday in Franklin County, home of the state's capital in Columbus, under a, quote, hold for the state of Oregon. This time around, she's expected to be extradited back to Lane County to face charges. Now, she was previously arrested in Ohio early last month and spent nearly 2 weeks behind bars. But Governor Tina Kotek declined to pay for her extradition, and she was released. Kotek then reversed that decision, but it was too late because Young was already out of jail. It appears Young won't be so lucky this time around. She's been under investigation since December 2023, when the newspaper found out that more than $100,000 were gone and several bills were unpaid. The paper shut down and laid off nearly all its staff right around Christmas that year. But shortly after, the community stepped in with fundraising efforts and revived the paper. Stay with us. We're back right after this. Well, that is the end of our show, folks. Thanks so much for watching. The good stuff is coming your way next. And don't forget, everyone has a story to tell. If you ever miss an episode of The Story at 6:30, we re-air it at 8:30 and 10:30 on our TV app, KGW+. You can also catch us the next day at 11:30 a.m. Download the free app now on Roku, Apple TV, and Fire TV. Have a great Thursday night. The weekend is almost here. I'll see you right back here tomorrow night at 6:30.